I know there are a lot of misinformation right now floating around the internet, and I think we all should keep our critical minds. But from what I can see and from what I can tell, I just really hope that the people of Ukraine can stay safe and defend their homes. Because, sheesh, as a Hong Konger, watching this, it just stresses me out. But, anyways, hey guys, what's up? It's the Culture Detective here, investigating your favorite albums. And today I'm going to be doing an album review, second review of the day, and that would be an album review on the latest Beach House album, Once, Twice, Melody. So, yeah, Beach House Once, Twice, Melody album review has been on my schedule for a long time already, and I've pushed it one date to the next day, to the next day, to the next day. I've been postponing my review for this album again and again and again and again and again. And there are multiple reasons. Obviously, I have schoolwork, I have assignments, I have a life now, but also this is a long album. It takes time to digest this album. Also, given what happened a couple days ago, not only with Ukraine and all, but also some other stuff, I was just not in the mood to review anything at all. But now I am, so let's talk about this new album. Baltimore dream pop duo Alex Scally and Victoria Legrand has come back together with a new album, Once Twice Melody, and they have gained pretty much classic status in the underground indie community already. Well, not so underground now, but back then when they released albums like Teen Dream and Bloom, these albums are widely considered as classics of the early 2010s. Their career went to a bit of a low point with Depression Cherry and Thank Your Lucky Stars, which may be huge among the Beach House hardcore fans, but among music fans in general, they were a bit of a letdown. Anyways, a few years back, they released the album Seven, which is basically Beach House return to form. It's a little bit more experimental, it's really lush and dreamy, and it's honestly really good. Even though Seven is far from perfect, but there are tracks in the album that I find absolutely amazing. I mean, just listen to the track Lemon Glow. Sheesh. Anyways, they have returned with a new album, Once Twice Melody. And this is a really weird one because this album is 80 minutes long and they decided to release this album in four parts or four chapters. So it's 80 minutes long and it's 18 tracks, but they released the album 20 minutes by 20 minutes by 20 minutes by 20 minutes over the course of a few months, which is kind of weird, but also kind of an interesting change of pace in Beach House's musical career. Now, what I really love about Once Twice Melody is its instrumentals. Easily the strongest aspect of this album is how dense and lush and gorgeous and dreamy the instrumentals are on this album. They're absolutely amazing, and just having them flow into my ears, it's just a wonderful experience. But one thing about this album that kind of bogs my enjoyment down is that it feels more like a it feels more like a compilation than an actual album. The sequencing doesn't really feel all that purposeful. I mean, sure, the chapters they sound slightly different from one another, but only slightly different. Overall, it still sounds like a bunch of really modern, new beach house songs, and it just doesn't end off very strong. It just doesn't flow very nicely, but I don't think that's a huge issue because the tracks here in and of itself are all pretty much fantastic. Disc 1 is amazing. The album opener, Once Twice Melody, is gorgeous with the runny drums, the gorgeous synth arpeggios, the winding bass. The chord progression is really odd and weird, and I really love that. It's shimmery, it's bright, it's lush, and I just love the big vocals. She tries to understand. It's just really lush and dense. And then the track Superstar is a mid-paced track with a roaring bass, with the lead vocal sort of build up to such a heavenly high at the end. It's beautiful. And one of the highlights on the album, in my opinion, is Pink Funeral, with its echoey vocals and rapid hi-hats. I love the up and down rushes of keyboards. The lyrics are kind of scary, and then we have these very sinister friggin' organs that came out of nowhere. Oh, it's so scary, and it sounds like a really cool style for Beach House. And the track Through Me is pretty much typical Beach House with the sequence beats and dreamy vocals, nothing all that great. Next, we move on to the second chapter, which is, in my opinion, the best one out of the four. It is solid, four tracks, and all four of them are fantastic. The track Runaway has the watery keyboards that are very dense and saturated, and then we have these vocoder vocals, which may sound a little awkward, but I think they add a very interesting texture to the track. The track ESP has the really weird instrumentals, acoustic guitars, ethereal vocals, faint drums that sounds like it's kind of distant and clipping. It does sound like bad production, but it also sounds interesting, and I think that's really important for an album that has like 18 tracks in it. And then New Romance is one of my favorites on the entire album. Dense instrumentals, raining synths after the chorus, and this track is easily one of the catchiest and funnest tracks on the entire album. And then that is followed with Over and Over, which is 7 minutes long and 11 seconds long, ever-changing dynamic track, which has a lot of colors, a lot of flavors, a lot of ups and downs, and it's just a gorgeous way to end off chapter 2. Then we have disc 3 or chapter 3, starting off with Sunset, which is a nice little sweet sunny acoustic ballad with some interesting reverse tones in the second half of the track. While I think it's really sweet, I don't think it's that great or anything. It just doesn't like wow me or anything. The track Only You Know is a stargazy rock oriented track, but what really bogs this track down is the really weird cycling repeated vocal loops in the track. And then we have the track Another Go Round, which is about short-lived romantic interests, and it's a nice track. It's jolly, simple, kind of liminal in a way. And again, one of my favorite tracks on the album, Masquerade. Damn, fiery electronics, sick beats, and spooky gothic bells. This is one of the most interesting sonic palettes on this album, and it's awesome. And the disc ends off with Illusion of Forever, which is an extremely reverby and huge and grand ending. And that kind of leads into the fourth chapter, which is, in my opinion, the weakest chapter out of the four. The chapter opener finale is very stiff and drab, in my opinion. It's like Beach House, but without the magic, the chords, the melodies, they just feel drabber and drier. The Bells is definitely a good song. It's your classic slow and spacey beach house, sort of like space song. I also like Victoria Legrand's vocals on this track. They are extra expressive. The track Hurts to Love is kind of like a throwback to old school beach house, but again, it just feels kind of drab. It just doesn't have that magic anymore. And the penultimate track, Many Nights, is pretty much ambient pop, nothing all that crazy. However, the chapter does end off in a very strong note with the track Modern Love Stories, a huge grand ending to the final chapter, washed out keyboards, swelling strings, nostalgic and dreamy, kind of like the album opener to Seven, Dark Spring, except it's slower and weirder, and I really love that. So yeah, while I think the last chapter is kind of weak, I do think that the first two chapters are really, really strong, and I think this is a pretty good Beach House album overall. And yeah, favorite track here is probably either Masquerade or New Romance, and my least favorite is Finale. I'm giving Beach House Once Twice Melody light to decent 8 out of 10. So if you listened to the latest Beach House album for one, it didn't rate it, like it, and subscribe if you want more. And thanks for watching.